Greetings. So I have prepared a little project here based on the track that we had a look at the other day. To avoid crashing, I've deleted all channels that we've already had a look at. So we will basically just focus on these 3 tracks. But they have quite a lot of processing, and I think that we can also go through the return channels and see how they are constructed. I still can't show you the windows of the third-party plugins. I'm using a software called OBS, which is used for game streaming, so I guess they don't have this issue. I figured I could do this video even without it. I will explain a bit when we come to these plugins. I will tell you what it is and basically what settings I've used, and in the end, after that, I think the important part is that you can hear how it affects the sound. So we will have a first quick scan through the track so that we remember what it sounds like. The mix is kind of shit. I realize now there's way too much bass, so I even tried to fix it quickly, but whatever. We will just have a look or a listen to the sound in its context. So it's that scraping sound in the back, and that jaw height. Yeah. So that's the track, and we will have a listen to the sounds. And this is the kind of bass sound which doesn't really contain a lot of bass. And that's a common issue for me. I'm a bit allergic to too much bass, which is not good for me in deep techno, because it has a very different balance than what I prefer, actually. What I've started to use, but we'll have a listen to the sound. So you can see this is the quote-unquote bass sound. It has basically no bass. What I do is I parallel compress. So for instance, okay, this was not what I was supposed to show you. But anyways, here we go. The idea is that you have a compressor like this, preferably perhaps a like an analog simulation, which gives you some distortion. We can use this now. Wait, what's the pedal? It's pretty cool. So basically, let's see if this even works. What the fuck? Oh yeah. Nope. So the idea is that you really compress it hard. Yeah. I mean, this is a horrible example, but the idea is that you compress it very hard. Did you hear? And you get a kind of subby sound. And then you hear. So you have this weaker sound. This is very common to use on guitars and in rock and metal music, and a lot of different applications on drum sets to make it more lush or whatever. And then you just introduce it. So yeah, that's parallel compression for you. Maybe I will make a better tutorial on that later. I mean, my instinct is to reach for other plugins, which I can't show you now because of this stupid program. But anyway, okay, let's have a listen to this scrape sound. So I will shut off these devices one by one so that you can hear how the sound is built, and I will tell you shortly about each device and what they're doing in this chain. So here, the compressor, it's ducking the kick, this one, to have this pumping. I shut it off. This is to get rhythm and to have the kick more clean and punchy, because the bass, which isn't really there, kind of muddies the kick down. And then I have this Soothe. For those of you who don't know it, it's a resonance suppressor. So what it does, it's like a combination of a really alive equalizer and a multiband compressor, kind of. So you just put it at whatever frequency you feel is harsh, and it analyzes that area in real time and takes away the resonance. This is like when I have problematic sounds, I don't go for an advanced equalizer that can do all sort of things. You know, I just put out this and it does it really quick. And I can even show you here what it has done with this sound. These are the sounds that it has deleted or suppressed. And these are sounds around 4K, which is a very sensitive psychoacoustic area for our ears, because that is where an important part of the vocal and speech areas are. So we have developed a hearing for these frequencies. So having harsh tones in these frequencies can really be bothering for our ear, because it's amplified in our brain. So shut it off. You hear those little yeah. So that's one part. I have also I'm also very sensitive to resonance, bass and resonance. You know, I want the bass to be solid, and I want the resonances to be controlled. There's nothing worse for me than standing on a dance floor or listening to music loud at home, and there's some element in the track that's just like resonating very hard. And then I have this compressor. You can't see this. This is Native Instruments modeling of the famous Universal Audio Telectronics LA2A optical compressor. I don't use this anymore, but I used to use this on everything. It was like this, basically the only compressor I used. I mean, it's pretty slow compressor. The attack time is pretty slow, but it's also musical. It's adaptive, where the release of it is like not fixed. It can be up to 2 seconds depending on the incoming signal. And briefly, for those who don't know optical compressors, it's quite interesting. They are made by a light bulb in a light sensitive kind of sensor. So a sound comes in, and this sound ignites light. The amplitude controls the amount of light from the light bulb. So and then the gain is lowered by the by the light. You get the idea. So that's pretty cool. It's not doing. I don't think you will hear it. It's just attenuating like 1.5 dB or something. So it's basically used to make it a bit more stable and musical, tucking in the bass frequencies a bit. And then I have this to see, make it a bit more mono here. Bass mono, important. And why is it important to have bass in mono? Because you can have really a lot of problem with phase cancellation, especially if you print on vinyl, because they will, before printing it on vinyl, the cutter, they will put your bass in mono, and if you have phase problems, you will have cancellations or peaks of bass, and it will mess up the whole track. It happened to one track on Kabalion actually, where the bass kind of just disappeared completely on the Periscope Immerse vinyl. I mean, these were very like old school underground. He doesn't really know how to produce. He's basically just a nerd who fiddled with sound, so he didn't know these things. But it's amazing music that he made regardless. I mean, I don't want to diss him. He's a very nice friend. I bet he can produce. But some concepts are not obvious. So the next sound is this. Little Altar Boy by Sound Toys. It's a voice manipulation kind of. It does pitch shifting, formants, vocoding kind of effects. I use this a lot also for pitch shifting these days. Usually I use these transpose and the frequency shifter, but I think it really gives something extra to use the Little Altar Boy. Then we have the CQ, which is also an EQ by Sound Toys. I'm using it here basically just to try it. I don't use it a lot. In this case I'm adding some bass. So pretty subtle. I actually use it these days to boost highs. It gives a really nice airy crispy high thing. I can maybe even demonstrate. Here. Yeah. And this is modeled after a vintage Siemens equalizer. So it's a pretty odd thing. And then Primal Tap. This is modeled by the Lexicon Prime Time. So it's a very like 80s kind of delay, which makes really sick sounds. It's like the basis of a lot of my sound right now. And then the crystallizer, which is not on, I think. I'm opening it here now just to show you. It's on completely dry. It's called a granular echo synthesizer, but it's an effects inspired by an old, I think an Eventide not device, how do you say, like a hardware Eventide thing, which uses filters and pitch shifting and reversing to make a granular kind of effect. I'll come to that more later. And then I have the equalizer. You can really hear the difference. Unfortunately you can't see this either, but what I've done is I've cut a lot of bass, and I've made some notches around 1500 and 5k, and cut some highs. also I had the bass here. I don't know why I cut it out when I needed it. This to make it mono. I don't know why. I think it was mono. So yeah, I will turn them all on now so you can hear it more quickly without me babbling. And in the track. Cool. One track, one sound down, two to go. Oh yeah, maybe I should play it also without these. Without the returns. I will go through them later with the returns. More life, more space, more room. Yeah. And sorry, I have no idea how long I'm recording now. I should have taken time or something, and I can't see it here, so I will just do this video however long it takes, and in the future I will be more attentive to the time, whatever. So this is the next sound. So it's a similar. Yeah, it's different sounds. So as you see, I've cut a longer recording. Let's see, maybe I can. See, so I just picked the part, and with modulations you can like kind of make it move a bit. Turning off the returns. Oh, and I boosted it a bit just so you can hear it, because it's actually pretty low. So I just wanted you to hear the difference. Again, bass mono. Micro shift by Sound Toys also, which is very cool plugin. I used to make this effect myself with the delay and frequency shifter. And basically what it is, I don't know if you guys even know stereo and mono. I will explain it quick. When something is mono, when left and right have the same sound at the same volume. If you have the same sound louder in the left, it will sound like it coming from the left. And also, if you have the same sound and you manipulate them differently in left and right, they will sound wider. The sound will sound wider. So their common sounds will be in mono, because that's whatever similarities they have, or like exact same, will be in the middle, and the differences will be in the sides. And what this micro shift does, it uses some modulated detuning and delay. You can choose, like, if you want it to be, if this effect is to be by detuning left and right ear, so that you get a wider sound, or if you want to have a delay. Because the delay also gives width. There's an effect called the Haas effect, which is a psychoacoustic effect, and a psychoacoustic effect is effects that occur in our perception, in our minds. For instance, if a delay between left and right ear is short enough, our brain computes it as the same sound, like a wide sound. So for instance, if you're beating a drum and you put them left and right at the exact same time, it will be in mono. But if you put it like 5 or 10 milliseconds later in the right ear, it will sound wider, but still it will sound like the same sound. but then at one point, when the delay is too long, you start to hear it as a delay. And this varies between different kind of sounds. More transient short sounds has a shorter threshold for this, and drones and longer evolving sounds has a longer we have a longer tolerance for that. It's harder for our ear, you could say, to differentiate between two sounds. And you can use this effect to make sounds wider. It's very common to use on like guitars or background vocals, which is supposed to come from the sides, while you have like the kick, snare, and vocal, a main vocal in the middle, and then you have like the guitar around it and the background vocals, or yeah. And here I use it like this. And here limiter, not doing anything. And here we have another compressor. This is before I realized I need to stop using third-party plugins. Back then I used these old analog emulations only because it was fun to kind of get a experience using the analog equipment while not actually using them. And this is an emulation of the DBX 160, which is an amazing compressor apparently. It's used mainly for percussive sounds, I think, historically, but of course there are a lot of you can use whatever effect however you want, and I am sure it has been used in plenty of different ways. I actually use it a lot on bass sounds, and it has a nice kind of smooth limiter kind of effect that I like a lot, and yeah, it's a great plugin. But these days I don't use it anymore. I only use the glue compressor, and thankfully, because then in the future projects you will be able to see what the hell I've done. It's not really doing much here. I mean, it's ducking barely nothing, so it's basically just lowering, putting the volume up. I think I will leave it on actually, so that you can hear these differences better. So again, I cut a lot of lows with some dips around 100 Hz and 450, and the area between 200 and 500, it's an important area to be mindful about when you're mixing sounds that are that have a lot of content within 200 and 500 Hertz. It's important that you make how do you say, like an intellectual decision to keep it. Always consider it, because it's an area that can really, it's called muddy your mix, and yeah, it can really make bring down the clarity, and make the it makes it a bit messy. So always have it in mind, I think. And then I cut some bass. So I would put them all on, and here interesting thing, I first see here that I heard this sound, and I was like, okay, I need to cut some bass, so I put this one, and then I heard, oh, I need to fix more things, this is not good. So I went in and I cut even more bass, blah blah, but I still kept the first plugin, and instead of deleting it, would have been more economic for my processor, but I'm lazy, and things need to go fast when I'm producing, so. And I apologize. I noticed that I talk a lot during the sounds. I should develop a habit to pause it when I talk. I can hear myself pretty good. I hope you can hear me too. So we will turn this all on now and see how the sound is made. hear it and hear it in the track. And that's why I say the mix is shit. I will really want to have that sound much higher. But whatever. Okay, so last sound. Yep, it sounds like this. Oops. Okay, I had already turned off the processing. So we will do it this way. Maybe it's quicker, I don't know. So it's my mouth harp that I've cut. Turn off the returns. So glue compressor, good boy. Make it a bit more musical, and that's how I use compressors mainly is to make sound more musical. And what do I mean by more musical? It means more controlled, more less random. When you have like a unstable volume, it kind of give an uncertain kind of feeling. But if you have it like more control, straight, even, it sounds more assertive, certain, skilled, and that's an important part of compressing vocals, for instance, to control the singer's dynamics, to make it sound like they have control of their high volumes when they are singing, and controlling their dynamic when they maybe they fucked up somewhere, but you use the compressor to kind of pull it down, and if there was one tone in the part where it was a bit too low, so you just put that up and put the high parts down a bit just to make it a bit more even, like there was a bit more control, if that's what you're aiming for. And that's how I'm using it, and especially for bass. Okay, let's listen. This beat repeat is like the main thing for the sound, I think. Okay, I won't go into it in detail, but every loop, it by a 61.9% chance, it triggers this repeat, which has a pitch decay. It's a pretty cool effect. You can do a lot with it. I'm still getting my feet wet with it. This and the grain delay are effects that I'm currently digging into. You will see them a lot. And then a filter. You won't see this. It's the Filter Freak 2. It's just two bandpass filters that's just slowly sliding from top to bottom, just filtering. Yep. Bass mono, compressor. Not really doing much besides putting. Oh, there it was. Yeah, and I think one reason I put the compressor here, because I use the filter, and they have a resonance, and as they are sliding across the sound, they depending on the timing, they can sometimes catch some strong peaks, and I want the compressor to save us from those peaks. You see, it's mainly, it's not really doing a lot, but then sometimes just boom, goes up here, and it just helps us save the day. And again, soothe. Oh, this is really doing a lot. You will hear it now. I will put on all the sounds that it's attenuating. It's a lot. This is the sound. Let's try to hear it before and after. So a lot of the really high tones. Yeah. Again, it's the DBX 160 emulation. Working pretty hard actually here. Equalizer, cutting some lows and some frequencies around 1500. Limiter. Okay, so let's put them all off. Yeah, and the effects. It's a bit low. And you can see here, even though I have a compressor here and a compressor here, we're still getting those kind of peaks here and there. And that's mainly to catch transients, so it's actually a way to kind of multi-band compress the high frequencies in a way. For me, usually I use it on hi-hats when they are cutting too hot, like really piercing. I use this to like soften the really harsh tones. Okay, so let's listen through these. Yep. Let's see, can I listen to all these? These are the return channels. I'm going pretty fast. I feel a bit slow with this video so far. So the first one is the RC48, which is I think a lexicon emulation, but I'm not sure. But it's a reverb anyways by Native Instruments. I have a mind to stop using it, but I've been using it for so long. It's just been sitting here for years without me even touching it. So I'm just used to having it. It's part of my space. When I say that, I mean the kind of environment where I place the track. I feel that the reverb return channels kind of act as the environment for which you are building with your music. So it's like the room or the cave, or if you want to, if it's in a cave, or if it's in a really big kind of cathedral, or wherever you want to place your listener. I have one or two reverbs here that help me build that space, and it's this one and this one that adds some high crisp, and then I usually use one more reverb that's a bit more weird, that kind of makes it a bit more edgy. And of course, even more if I want to make something creative. But as a general rule, those three I use to connect. See, here is the high. Okay, I can increase this just so you can hear the difference. Yeah. Let's see. Simple delay. I'm not even using it. Echo Room. This is an amazing plugin that came with Ableton Live 10. I'm using it a lot. Here, just nothing special. I really like the wobble effect. I'm not using it now though. I used to use the noise a lot, but I'm a bit tired of noise right now. And here again, whoa. It's the primal tap again. Lexicon Prime Time emulation, which makes these really cool, kind of weird delay effects. Getting some lows, getting some resonance. As you hear, it's kind of floating, and here it's like zip. Bass mono, LFO, controlling the width. Mono opens up. Closes. Here again, another compressor. This is a new one. It's the emulation of another Universal Audio classic, the 1176. It's also very good for drums. I don't really like that one, actually, that much. I just tried it here, I think, for fun. And the SAR reverb, which is one of my absolute favorite reverbs from Softtube. It's one of the keepers I'm using for the coming years. And a notch filter, which has an LFO. Gives movement. I mean, it's basically like a simple phaser. Not really, but still, it's a moving notch filter. Yep. Crystallizer again, this kind of granular pitch shifting reverse effect based on the Eventide what's the name? Let me check. H3000, which they call the Ultra Harmonizer. Is it the Crystallizer? Sounds like this. Little plate reverb, amazing, just listen. I mean, this little plate, it will take me a lot. I don't think I will ever stop using it. It's just so simple. It has very few knobs, just a tail length mix, low cut, and a kind of modulation thing, which I guess is a kind of phaser or whatever. It's amazing reverb. I wanted it when it came out, but I never could afford it, and now I bought it this year, which is like 2-3 years later, and yeah, man, it's amazing. Yeah, so it sounds like this. This is the original signal that comes in through the crystallizer if this happens. This is a very Ntognish sound, I think. So last channel. It's the it's our parallel compression. Okay, let's have another look at this horribly mixed track. Yeah, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or requests for future videos, then just comment on Patreon and I will look into it most definitely. Peace.